We hear it all the time. Protect your peace. Elevate your circle. Outgrow anything that no longer serves you. But nobody really talks about what that actually looks like. The friendships that don't come with you. The spaces that don't feel the same anymore. Even the version of yourself that you had to leave behind. So I guess the question is, are we really growing, or are we just distancing ourselves and calling it alignment? 4 titles, 1 truth. I'm Tommy.
And I'm Lance. Today we're talking about alignment or isolation, the truth about outgrowing people.
Let's get into it.
How do you tell the difference between real growth and just distancing yourself because it's easier?
I mean, I think real growth is evident, right? Mm-hmm. You set your goals and you start achieving those. And so I think that I'll take it from my military perspective, right? So I knew as a specialist and below, unless I was in a leadership position, you can have fun, you can hang around, you could be buddy, you could hang out, right? Unless you're in an E4 leadership position or you are a corporal, right?
Okay.
But then once you make non-commissioned officer, corporal, and we'll talk Sergeant E5, you can still play around a little bit. You can still hang out a little bit, but you cannot be buddies with them. So I know that, like when I first I was never a corporal. So when I made Sergeant E5, I knew that the people I dealt with on a daily situation in uniform would have to adjust. The advantage for me was I got moved from one unit to another unit. I was at battalion, then I moved to the company. So I didn't really have to sever those relationships that I had to the E4 and below I was in charge of. I'd still speak to them or whatever, but going into the new unit, I was a sergeant. That's how they saw me, and that's how the separation was.
Okay.
And then you keep going. When you become a staff sergeant, you're not supposed to hang out with the Sergeant E5, specifically the ones you're in charge of, because there is a requirement of both of those relationships. There's a requirement for the person that ranks the most, that has the most rank, and then there's a requirement for the people who have less rank, and you have to make a decision. Both of you have to make a decision. If we're going to be friends and stay cool, then we're going to have to figure out this dynamic. You know what I'm saying? When I'm in public, I'm not your boy. I'm this non-commissioned officer. And when I'm in public, it's the same way for you. You're not my boy, you're my subordinate, whatever. But in my instance, it was always better to separate yourself because it helps you stay away from conflict and compromise is the best way I can say it. And so with that growth of understanding the rank, understanding the expectations of each rank when it comes to leader versus subordinate, I think if you can understand that, that's growth. But
that's work growth. To me, that's work growth because all of that is work because I came in and I'm a second lieutenant.
Right.
And I'm outranking everybody.
Well,
everybody that's in there in the list of things. But as far as like probably emotional and work knowledge and stuff, I wasn't because I hadn't been there. I wasn't, than the E7 or the E6 or that's 30 years old. Or I wasn't there. I mean, so I think mine was a little different in that I feel like when I got to college, and leaving, I mean, that's where I feel like I started evolving, started growing because I left home.
Changing from who you were.
Changing that environment. And then just being around different people, learning different things. And then while being in ROTC, learning, the different rank structures and going through it because we go through it as cadets. As you're whatever private and that's a sergeant major or first sergeant. So you learn those pieces. But not like you, where it's like, I could be a private and be a sergeant, and we still boys because it's like, because it's not, it's not But it's understanding that, when you get into the real world, a real thing, this is how it's going to be. So, so that piece was harder for me because a lot of times I was the same age as
the private,
not as privates as E5s, E4s. We're right, being a 22-year-old kid,
right.
but I had a little more education than some of them, and experiences. So that was a different thing of trying not to exactly
Become
what you
buddies.
said, because be buddies or get close or be hanging, because it's like you got similar interests.
Absolutely.
When you listening to, as I can tell you, listening to music and watching, just those things, and like when you're playing flag football or the softball, whatever, basketball, you're similar.
So when you left college and stepped into the Army, your first NCOIC was what?
E7.
Okay. So Adam, roughly is between 8 to 15 years age difference.
It was,
give or take. Yeah. So when you walk on, it's obvious you're going to have more relatable circumstances, situations, and experiences with the 4 and below. So I get that.
But it was which I'm glad I had an awesome NCOIC E7.
Non-commissioned officer in charge.
Yeah.
Is what
Sergeant Rouse. Big shout out. He ended up retiring as a command sergeant major and all of that good stuff. But he was able to say, hey, LT, these are some things you need to be focusing on. Get me to that, to look through that lens, and to remind me, it's like, hey, you can't, that's not good optics, and just things like that, because it's easy to gravitate to
what you're familiar with.
What you're familiar with. That makes it easy, but it's like, okay, I got to learn this stuff and not try to come across as an asshole, not come across as a jerk. So
So I guess mine was more maturity, because it's something that I understood was happening, and it's something I had to make the decision on. To where with you, it was more of, had some coaching to help you clearly see the lines.
Because I think you came in and came right into the game.
Yeah,
you were in the pros. You were in the league.
Yeah,
I started off in the minors, learning,
right,
and then got thrust up. Boom, you're right up. You're going into the game right now, and yours is
as
like,
a
okay,
starter.
Like I know that you gotta separate. Because that's what you were learning. I gotta separate. When I get to this next one, I know I gotta separate it.
Yeah.
We can't be how we are back in the barracks or back, on the street or whatever. Yeah. You're gonna address me by what my what my title
Keep
is. Give me that give me that respect, and I'm gonna give you the same respect. Trying to and I think it's hard for folks when you got buddies like that. Absolutely. For them to try to it's like, look, man, I'm gonna treat you with the same respect that you're gonna same energy, but we got different jobs right now, different responsibilities. Support me so I can support you.
I'm gonna tell you something. It's, if you progress normally, then I think it's something you can adjust to. Mm-hmm. If you are high speed at any point in your career, and high speed meaning you're on fast promotion tracks, and stuff gets clear. It gets murky, man, because, like I said, I clearly understood, because I spent almost 6 years as an E4 and below, right? It took me forever to get to E5. But from E5, Sergeant E5, to Sergeant First Class, it's like 3.5 years. You know what I'm saying? And so you're making these friends and you're becoming cool with these people.
Right.
And then next thing you know, you outrank them. Yes. Next thing you know, you're in charge of them. Yeah.
You're writing their evaluations.
Yeah. And that's not a problem that I had, but it is a problem that some of the friends that I had, because I automatically turned that switch on.
When did you stop playing basketball, or stop being on the
when I stopped?
Because did that have, the reason why I'm asking is, like, did that have a factor in why you were 6
friends.
years. Well, while you were 6, well, I know that. I mean, that's going to be friends,
no.
but
It was a cutoff score.
okay.
Yeah, no, it was freaking ridiculous cutoff score. The cutoff score was ridiculously high. And then when it would come down a little bit, it was to promote one or two people. And I wasn't one or two people. So I was always trying to improve. I was always trying to get more points. And then I finally got them.
Just maxed out.
That's
okay.
what it was. Is a smaller circle always better, or can it actually become limiting? Because we just talked about how we're advancing in our career and in life. We know that the circle gets smaller, especially when you're talking about leadership, because that's just somebody has to be in charge.
I think it just has to. Yeah, I mean, I think
so. So, do you think it making that circle small, is that like the best way to go it, or is it limiting yourself?
I think you got to control it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you got to control it, and I feel like it when you're a younger leader. I think it's good to have a nice little community behind you.
Right.
But as you go up in rank, just like the rank structure is where it gets small, it's fewer and fewer and fewer folks. I think that just it collapses just because you have to have some type of control over what's going on and being able to actually see and view and
make decisions.
Yeah, make decisions. Know who you like truly trust. I mean, that's what I think that comes down to is like who do you truly trust or value their opinion on things, because you're going to be in charge of You're in charge of a larger group of folks.
The more rank you make,
so the decisions and things that you make have a bigger impact.
Yeah.
So you can't have a huge group.
Everybody can't. Yeah,
everybody can't be. Because somebody's feelings going to get hurt. Somebody's not going to like what goes down.
Or the flip, it's going to affect your decisions.
Yeah.
The orders that you make.
I think it doesn't have to be like teeny tiny. Yeah. But I think it does have to be. You can't have it has to be a smaller control situation where you can sit down and make, and I think you have to be very judicial and very selective. That's the word, selective on who you have in that in that circle. Because especially and that's when you're dealing with the job piece of it, because when you're married or whatever, that circle is.
Two.
Yeah, it's usually you and your wife, and depending on what it is, it might be you and the kids if it's something that could possibly involve them, and they're at a age where you're like, okay, I want to hear their opinion on this. Yeah. I mean, in the work, because that's I feel like when you're talking about growth, it's I feel like it's you have your work professional growth, and you have your self growth, personal self growth, know. And I think you go through those things. Some of it's at the same time, and some of it's at different spots. And I think, especially for us have been in the military, it comes up depending on what your job is, what your assignment is, what the job is, and doing what is required. Because it can either. Some of your jobs make you have to grow, make you have to change, And the personal thing is it can be a menagerie of things that make you have to start looking at yourself.
No, I get that. What you're talking about is exactly how I developed. Okay. From the military perspective, I was on it because it had rules and regulations that I could go look at, and I could see what right and wrong was from the rules and regulations and from my experiences. When it came to life, and I know it's horrible to say, but I didn't mature. I didn't elevate at the same pace. When I was a sergeant, I was still silly old Tommy, but I adjusted myself in uniform. I made staff sergeant. I was still silly old Tommy, but I had grown a little bit, so I started to finally grow. I made sergeant first class, automatic, and then I was slowly. So it was never the same. My whole time in the career, my military was never the same. My self-growth and my job growth or military growth. So the one thing that's consistent is once you advance past people that don't have the same vision you are, then that's why your circle gets smaller. Because not everybody's going to have your best friend at an early age may not have that drive that you want when you step into the military or whatever. Because I know that the biggest part of my personal growth and change was squashed immediately because I left Ohio to join the military. And none of my friends left going the same direction I went, right? So that meant I was no longer in the same space. Secondly, that meant I had a completely different new future than everybody else, because everybody else was thinking college, pro sports, or just being in town, staying where they were, right, hustling. And so that completely separated me from. But when a friend of mine moved away from Middletown, that sort of linked us back together because we now had more similar things.
Aligned.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's how my partner, his name Ahmed, the one that passed away, that's why our friendship stayed. Because we both noticed we were growing and changing.
Right.
That doesn't mean my other friends weren't. It's just that I don't know if we both, me and those other friends and them and me, I don't know if they ever noticed that we were on the same level now, or I was on the same level. I don't know how those relationships fell to the side, but I do know I learned early about putting the energy in people that don't bring value to you.
Right.
And that's where I was like, I can't hang out with E4 and below because they don't bring any value to, where my goals are. And the same way with people, I usually hung around with peers or people I knew that were fast tracking and were hungry like I was. So if you were a young staff sergeant and you were pushing, trying to be great, and I was a sergeant first class, the odds are that you could be in my circle.
Right.
But if you don't understand the differences between you want to be where I am and I'm where I am, then that could push you out of the circle, But I always had that. My lens for the military was always locked in, and the decisions I made because I was well aware of the consequences. Right. But my personal growth, it was just, I can probably get away with that. Or, it was all the wrong stuff, so.
Okay. So how does this show up at home? All right. So as husbands, as fathers, what happens when you're growing, but the people closest to you aren't growing at the same pace?
So I was fortunate.
Okay.
I was never in a relationship prior to Nikki that could have anyway held me back because I didn't put as much energy into those, right? And if I was in a relationship back then, I made sure that it couldn't compromise my job.
Okay.
Because once again, I was military focused in my mind. When I married Nikki, Nikki's fire and goals were not something that would slow me down. It was actually the opposite. It was something that added to why I felt I needed to succeed. Right. Even though the relationship wasn't ideal because of me,
right.
But I never for a second thought that anything, the way she carried herself, the way she presented herself, or anything like that, I never thought that she was holding me back.
Right.
Right. So nobody in my family I ever felt I had to cut off as far as fear of them holding me back. But I did run across family members that I had to distance myself from because they saw me as like a pot of gold. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, I'm not. I don't know why you think I'm wealthy.
ATM.
Yeah. And I am not your ATM. And there were a couple friends like that too. So I'm not saying it wasn't a majority of my family, or whatever, but there were a few out there that saw me as a ATM and felt that they had not a right to the money, but they had a legitimate right to ask. You know what I'm saying? Like they thought they were in that, yeah. But like I said, close family, father, mother, sister, Nikki, kids. No, never was I in a situation where that was a question.
Well, I mean, me either. I mean, because it was because both of us came. Audrey was a year ahead.
Right.
So both of us coming in, and we're, I'm in one corps, nurse corps, she's in medical service corps.
Right.
So knowing what the career paths were for that,
right.
I knew it was certain things that she had to do
to
in
succeed.
order for her to
Advance,
in order to advance. And I know it was, for me, it was some of those things that she was doing would have been niceties if I would have wanted to track in that command path or whatever.
But it wasn't needed.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't needed.
Right.
But it was more of a getting over the ego thing.
Yeah, compromise.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's like I could have been a command. I could have taken command. I could be a commander or whatever. I could do that.
Right.
What are you talking about?
I have the skills.
So yeah, so it was I don't say refocusing, but it was just the prioritization of what I wanted for my career.
Yeah.
And looking at, and because I was always looking at the, in the long, what's going to make me a better, what's my profession? Nurse. What's going to make me a better nurse?
Okay.
What do I enjoy?
But that was a decision that you had to make.
That was a decision
from this.
Well, just not pursue it. Not pursue it how some folks, you can pursue that.
Yeah.
And get in that track.
Right.
And then you see, like, some of those people, sometimes they get promoted above the zone,
faster,
because they had that certain job and had that
on their resume,
had that colonel or that general that was rating them, that makes their actual record think it looks better, but it's like they can't do their job, because that was my whole thing, was like, I'm not going to be an incompetent nurse, and nobody's going to ever be able to say that I couldn't I couldn't do my job, and I knew what I wanted. And when I finished, I knew what I wanted to be able to do. I didn't know what I wanted to be, coming in, but I knew what I wanted to be able to do.
Be a competent.
Yeah,
nurse.
I mean, just know, and that's from having family members, mother-in-law, people that were nurses, and hearing them talk and knowing and going through nursing school. It's like, this shit ain't easy. It's not an easy thing to do, so it's like you want to be competent, and knowing that you have, you're responsible for folks' health.
Right.
So it means, but that piece was getting over that piece, and then it was just supporting, especially when you have a partner that's
got goals,
high speed, that's going, that's okay, it's not going to be waste, whatever whatever sacrifice I felt like I made, I knew it wasn't going to be wasted because it was going to benefit
us.
Yes.
Yeah, or you two. Yeah. So my question is, honest question. Did y'all have conversations about that, or is this something that you sort of took on yourself?
Yeah, we talked, but it was always
the decision for you to do that. Was that you, or was that a conversation?
That was me.
It was, yeah.
That was me, and it was. And we talked about, because it was like, okay, it'd be like, what's next? What do you have to do next? What's the next thing for you? We had those conversations. What's the next thing on your board? What you need to? What's the next job you need to do? So it was, I need to be command, or I need to be in charge of this. Like, I need to go to school, or whatever it was. Right. But the thing is that I feel like it benefited me because she would have to go do whatever job, and it would take us to Fort Irwin, right. Fort Lewis, Fort Bragg, or whatever. So when I got to those places, and I knew that, it's like, okay, I need to give me something else on my resume that's going to make me look a little, on my record, to make me look a little right. Different, to show that I can still go out and do some of these right. Operation jobs and stuff, and be in the field units and do those things. So it would make me go out and pursue some of those call them side gigs or right. whatever, so that I could get that experience, and also still be
build your resume,
and still be a competent nurse, be able to lead in the area where I was. So
I'm gonna tell you, I don't know. Like I said, another advantage between Nikki and I is Nikki was never understand that she was always competent. She was always a go-getter. She was always great at her job. Mm-hmm. But the military, she never had that bond like I had with the military. And I'm sure it has to do with her being a woman. I'm sure it has to do with her being a black woman. I'm sure it has to do with her being focused on Kaylin, her daughter. So there's reasons why. Remember, when I joined, it was all me all the time. Ooh, this is I like this. And then I put myself in that grind rut that pushes you towards success. And it's a very singular space. It's a very selfish space if you want to succeed.
And that's the thing, too, is that those decisions that we were making when we were but we didn't have to single, when we both didn't have kids.
Right.
Then when you have, I feel like when you have kids, that you grow, you don't have any choice. You either grow or you don't grow, and you fall off. Yeah. But that you can also lose. That makes your group your group a little smaller, because people who aren't looking in that, don't have those similar interests.
Yeah.
Are like, I had to go do this. I can't. So I mean, you can. Yeah, I think you're constantly growing and improving yourself, just depending on what the situation is and where you are in your
life.
Yeah, that piece of life.
And that's why I say, like, I know for a fact there are times when I was growing and wasn't aware. And then there were times when I was growing and I was like, okay, this is where I need to be. But at the same time, I don't remember a time where I was separating myself from a group or a person or a situation and talked through it. I just made a decision and just, and
cut it off.
Yeah, but that's one of the military things, right? So I knew that when I went home on vacation or whatever, break, or whatever you want to describe it, when I went home, in the beginning, I used to try to see everybody. But when you go back, not everybody's trying to call you. No. Not everybody's trying to come see you. And so that sort of weighed on me. And so when I would come back, it would be less and less people that I would stop announcing when I was coming. I stopped trying to see everybody when I was coming back home. And that also helped me narrow my
your group.
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you something. One of the worst things in the world is for everybody, when you come back home, for everybody to act like they miss you and want to spend time with you and hang out with you. But when you're away, you never hear from them. Yeah. That is tough, man. Oh. For me, anyway.
No, I mean, it's just, you just don't have those same interests or anything. Yeah. You know how it used to be. I mean, because that was, for me, because like not all my friends went to college. Not all went away. So a lot of them, stayed around in the area right there. So then whenever I would come home, it's like, I don't want to go out to such and such. I'm good,
Yeah.
But it's funny too. Well, I don't say it's funny, but it's one of those things where it's like all of the dudes who I wrestled with,
Mm-hmm.
and in high school and stuff, we can still sit down. I mean, I might not talk to them, but we can meet up once a year and just have good time, good conversations, because we had that similar bond during that time, which was, it was big because we were together a lot, during those times. But a lot of them I lost touch with just because we just didn't. It's life, It's like you start growing. You're growing up and you're just
wasn't
split
Facebook
off.
back then.
But let me ask you this before we go on. Whenever you deployed or Nikki deployed, because were y'all ever deployed together or were you deployed separately?
Both.
So did you, whenever you came home, either one of y'all, did you feel like when she started doing it, she grew or?
Oh.
Because
Well, see, my a real moment, right? So Nikki, she went from E1 or E3 to E6, right? Because she had college before she came in. And when she was at Staff Sergeant E6, she once again made a business decision for her and her daughter, Kaylin, right? And she decided to go to OCS. And so the OCS mindset that she needed was what I had every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was interesting for me on the outside looking in, watching her go to OCS and having to commit to the military. One thing a lot of people don't seem to understand is that as a leader, you have to care and you have to buy in. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't care and buy in, then there's no way you can possibly protect your soldiers the way you need to. Mm-hmm. There's no way you could possibly complete the mission the way you need to. And there's also no way that you can support yourself or your soldiers if you don't buy in. Because if you don't buy in, what I found out is if you don't buy into the military, you're leaving cards on the table that are beneficial to you, your soldiers, your unit, and the mission.
He's making it harder for yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so when Nikki went to OCS and became an officer, she had to give more of herself because she was a food inspector and now she's a medical services officer.
Right.
And medical services officers are those that they're not hospital focused. They're not TMC focused. They're the operations or they're the support.
Well, not all of them. Some of them are, depending on what your job is, because it's
huge. I'm just
huge.
saying that your job is no longer so focused. Right, because she went from a platoon leader to an XO to staff, and where she was only worked out of the vet because she knew she was going to a vet and then she was going to inspect commissaries and stuff like that. It was very interesting watching her have to adapt and adjust to a new way of seeing the military. And the crazy thing is that didn't bring us closer together in that point of view because it ended up being like a competition. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean competition to where she's trying to stop me or we're racing to the finish line.
Did you see it as a competition or was it a mutual thing?
It was a mutual, hard-headed decision because I was not professional, personal, or capable in any of those areas to present my way of helping her.
Okay.
And she reacted to how my incompetence on trying to help her and my failure to motivate her and all that was mistaken as me trying to show, come on, little cub, I got you. You know what I'm saying? Because
not respect her knowledge and
her grind and her all that. So it was a complete misunderstanding that we realized later on. But yeah, I started to take offense that she didn't come to me. And then she was taking offense to where every time I'd come to her, I'd look at her like,
let me help you out.
I got you, you little pup. You know what I'm saying? And so it was a horrible miscommunication that caused a rift that didn't need to be there. Yeah. And I regret it. I regret it because it has to do with my personal growth. I wasn't there yet to where I could have my woman, my partner, my wife, where I could have her back, let her know I have her back, and help point her in the right direction. And instead of it being mistaken of me acting like I know more and I'm the teacher and you're the student type of thing. So yeah, it was silly.
I understand that. I mean, that's the way, because whenever, the first time when I deployed, I was gone for that 15 months. That was
real.
Yeah, I mean, it was early. It was difficult, man. It was, because I was gone, came home after like 5.5 months for, my 2-week whatever, R&R or whatever, and then go back for, 10 months. Yeah. And it was just not being there, not, and it wasn't FaceTime, it wasn't a FaceTime where you could do that easily every day or anything like that. Yeah, like phone calls, but not being there, and then coming home, and it's just like the kids are bigger and doing, doing moved. And talking, and it was one of those things where it was like, who are these folks? What's going on? And accepting. It took me a minute to accept all of the changes. Let's say, and all it was. That's all it was. It was growth. Yeah. That they were experiencing their life every day. Yeah, and because I just felt like my shit didn't stop from when I left. It's the same to where it is now, which I, knowing now it changed because just what we're experiencing and witnessing and seeing, and I mean, so it changed. Some good, some bad.
So how did that affect you? Deployed first. So how did that affect you trying to set her up for success when she deployed?
Well, just knowing, because the thing.
Did it cause ruffles?
Okay. No, I mean, it was like knowing that where they were going, and knowing at the time that when she was going over was like, they ain't doing shit over there. And it wasn't the same intensity that was going on, which it was one of those things where it was like, I'm glad. Yeah. But also is one of those things where it's like, I want them to see that I wasn't just exaggerating or the shit was real over here. It was.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah. So, but it was, but just that being away and then just coming home, coming back and seeing the different changes, seeing how the the kids and me and just folks have. Oh, when you start doing that, why you say, just.
Yeah, you miss a lot. So people say protect your peace. But when does that become avoiding hard conversations or accountability? So we talked about how we're evolving and growing, and we're dropping people off, we're tightening our circle. So protecting your peace is like, my point of view is it's basically explaining to people why they're no longer
that's
in
how
the group.
It's a
So my thing is, I do believe in protecting your peace. Something that I took on. The more leadership I earned and the more rank I earned, I consciously made sure that I did not expend energy where it didn't need to be expended. So that cut down my arguing, that cut down my dealing with silly comments from people, peers, and seniors. It made me focus on the stuff that mattered. That's how I protected my peace.
You were good then.
But it was something I had to learn, because if I had really tried to maintain my peace and tried to make sure that everything was solved and a solution was found for everything and reasons were given and people left with an understanding, you'd freaking go crazy. Trying to explain to every one of your friends who you've lost contact with that, hey, I'm making this professional decision that I think maybe I still care about you as a friend, but I'm not going to reach out to you anymore. I don't see, and that's friends, and then same time with soldiers, same time with friends in the military. Protecting your peace to me is never an excuse unless you're kicking the can down the road.
Well, yeah. I mean, protecting your peace, I think it depends on the situation.
Agreed.
In the environment, because then sometimes you have to protect, you have no choice but to protect your peace. And sometimes I feel like you have to put yourself out there in order to get something done, because sometimes it's not going to be comfortable.
Oh, 100%.
So
but
sometimes you just have to be out
peace
there.
is, like I said, it goes back to me for energy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit there and make up a situation just to
so that you're going round and around on
just to feel like I'm
hamster wheel.
protecting. Yeah, just to feel like I'm trying to protect.
Yeah.
If somebody's upset with me because our friendship has changed, that's not something I'm going to waste energy on trying to explain. Yeah,
I mean that piece I don't feel like ever bothered me.
Yeah,
I never put any.
So what piece are you referring to? Because I think we're talking to two different.
As far as like worrying about if somebody was going to like me because or dislike me because I went away and we're
that
not
never
on the
fazed
same.
You. So
No, because we're on the same.
What piece are you talking about protecting?
I feel like I guess your ego, your pride. Mm-hmm. If you're, the fear of not making a right call, a right decision on something, and not wanting to, I guess having to accept that, to be accountable for it.
Mm. Well, yeah, that's
but I think that
in there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I think that comes with experience and age, and where it's like where you're more open to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah,
you're more aware of it, and I think if you can figure that out when you're a younger person. If I could have figured it out when I was a younger person, to
makes life easier.
Truly hold myself accountable for things and not make excuses for situations and things, then would have been a lot easier to have some peace, I guess, to manage that.
Because the peace that you didn't have was because of a situation or decision that you didn't clarify or make the right decision?
Didn't clarify, wasn't sure, and was just like, I don't know if I want to be arguing, or maybe didn't give the full effort that could have gone for, because it was like, is it going to be right? I don't know. Let me go. I know where it's going to be okay, but let me go to do that little piece there and see what happens.
Okay.
But
yeah, I didn't even go that route. But there were times when I've made decisions that they weren't, because sometimes you got to make decisions immediately sometimes. And sometimes you never get all the information you need to make a great decision. So sometimes that's where you got to bring in your experience. You got to bring in your intellect. You got to bring in your common sense. You got to do all that and just do the best you can. I can't remember a time to where I felt my peace was stirred because of a wrong decision or hesitation or anything like that.
As far as like job patient type stuff, I never had a problem. I mean, that was what is learning to deal with staff. Yeah, people. Dealing with people is what, I guess that's what I'm talking about. And that piece where it was like, oh my God, would drive me nuts on stuff, or where it was like, God, did I make the right decision on that? When it's like, it could have gone this way, it could have gone that way, where I had to learn how to
accept
it, give myself grace on some stuff, where it's like, and understand that you can't control everybody. You can't control every situation. So
that's a fact. And you also cannot, like something that I had to evolve into, allowing people under you to make decisions and fall on their face or move, because
that's hard.
Yeah, because you don't really, in the military, I didn't have a lot of situations where I could let somebody fall and hurt themselves to learn a lesson.
It's like,
because the mission is always there.
Yeah, I'm saying it's gonna come back on you, because then you're gonna have to go back and
so that led
somebody
me
to go back and fix it.
That led, because my path to success, I felt I had to learn everything. I had to learn, if I'm in charge of a job, I have to learn everything about that job. And early on, that was working. But then after a while, you have such a large freaking audience, or a large number of people in your charge, that you can't possibly know everything that all of them know. You can be familiar with everything, but you can't be the subject matter expert on everything. And what that means is having to delegate, accept the delegation, and deal with the results. And that was something I had to learn.
That's funny. That sounds like nursing, where you can have a situation and it can be 5 different things that you can do, but it's one thing that's the best. That's the best.
Yeah.
So then it's just like
getting to that best.
Getting to learn how to shift through all of the minutia in there and say, okay, nope, this is the one right here, and not this one, even though it sounds good. It's
Especially
not
when 3 other people are saying, well, yeah.
All right. So have you ever had to outgrow a version of yourself? And what did that process look like?
Yeah, that just goes back to what I was saying. I've had to outgrow myself every time I've elevated. Like, so for when I left Ohio to join the military, I was still the same person, right? But when I went through basic training and started to understand what the military was, when I went home, my friends and family saw me different, because basic training will build you up or tear you down, right? My dad straight up said, I'm standing taller, my mom talking about I'm more, started to put on a little more mass. So I just looked different after 8 weeks anyway. And so that was one change I had to get. And I don't know if I told you, I think I may have told you before, but almost like 95% of my basic training class was all reserves or National Guard. So I knew, like for instance, my class specifically, I knew I was never going to see these people again, even though I made some good friends. And so I knew going to the military, or when I got to my AIT and got to my final unit, because we didn't have the capabilities and I didn't have the energy to try to stay in touch with those people. I didn't mean to say them type, but with those people.
When trying to make lasting relations, because you knew that. Because you knew that
it wasn't going to see.
It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't anything that was.
And that's the thing that happened with going back home. The more I went back home, the more I started to see that I'm not better or worse than these people, but I am definitely in a different space.
Doing something,
yeah. And
that's it right there.
That is what led me to believe that I don't have to go see everybody, because not everybody may remember me, but not everybody's thinking about me, because they're not sending me emails. They're not sending me, And so that's a hard decision to make. It was a hard decision to make for me, because I don't know if some of the friends I would have ended up with would be the same, or would I have more from home? I don't know. And so that was something, a consequence I had to deal with after 30 years in the military, is knowing that going home, there's probably 5 people that know me now still, and most of the people look at me and do a double take, like, I knew a good guy that looked like you, So that was something. So every time I grew, every time I got promoted, every time I got in a different leadership position, that was growth in the military. And that growth,
Absolutely.
and that growth clearly defined how I needed to conduct myself. Because when I became a first sergeant, I sat down to myself and had this conversation. I can never be a problem in the problem-solving steps. You know what I'm saying? I can never insert myself to be the problem. So I can't get DUIs. I can't freaking fail my APFT height and weight. I can't. Not that I would have never sacrificed my career for silly mistakes, but you can still make silly mistakes, right?
Yep.
And so when I was a first sergeant, that was the most stress because I felt like I had to almost be perfect, and I always knew I wasn't perfect. And I was a first sergeant for 6 years. So imagine how that was on my head.
A big job.
Yeah. And then when I made sergeant major, you're so disconnected from E8 and below because everybody looks at you with reverence. You know what I'm saying? You're revered, respected just by the fact that they see that rank on you, right? And when you're in civilian clothes and then they hear you're sergeant major, you see everybody shake a little bit except other sergeant majors, right? And so as a sergeant major, whether I was sitting in a battalion or whether I was on staff, it was so much ingrained in me to be the example that it was no longer stressful for me. Because for some reason, when I went from E8 to E9, sergeant major, it sort of all just came clear to me that I don't have to try to be the example. I am the example. And so that took a lot of stress off me. And it allowed me to mature even as a sergeant major and as a man. So
yeah, I mean, that's good. I mean, that same thing for the most part is meeting the expectations of each, each rank and went up. So it's like, okay, position. I need to meet, but also exceed. I mean, my thing is meet, but you also need to exceed those if you want to make the next, make the next rank or try to get the next job that you want to get, not what they want to give you. And it was
because that's a difference.
Yeah, I mean, and each. I mean, believe it or not, I mean, each rank was. I mean, it was different because it was different going from 05 to 06. It was different, but it was different going from 04 to 05.
Absolutely.
It was going from company grade to field grade. It was.
There's a difference. Yeah.
What's going on? You know, and it's just.
But was that I don't want to say entitlement, but when you stepped into that next level, like the breakdown you just gave, was it a self-conscious thing, or was it a? It
was the expectations and knowing that more eyes were going to be on you, knowing that you were going to be
from what you've seen.
Yeah, well, what I seen and knew a little bit, and and knowing how I wanted to approach.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, how I wanted to approach.
It was your decision. Because you saw what it should look like, and you knew what you wanted to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely. What I felt like right was supposed to look like, and sometimes it might not have. It might not have been right, but I feel like
thought it was you.
Yeah, I feel like in the end I had it down because after I got promoted to because it was weird. Going from 05 to 06. And it was just like, shit, I'm 06 now. What's going on? And just learning that, learning the rank, and get into. And then once you get into it, then you see able to see the when I say advantages, I mean just how you can help more, how you can have more of a voice. Yeah. I mean that's the way that I felt when I got because it was like I'm not scared about going. Let's go talk to. When problems or something come up, it's like, well, we can. It's like, yeah, we can. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go take care of this. I get a reason why.
But that's a thing that Fulberg gave you. That our major gave me. all those years before, I've been trying to have a voice, been vocal, but not everybody's receptive to it. But once you put that freaking star on and that eagle on,
they see you.
now all of a sudden they stop at the table and say,
Well,
yeah.
well, that's something.
How did that, you finally make Full Bird, Full Bird Kernel, something your dad is impressed by, it's something your family's impressed by, something that you looked at and was like, I don't know when you got to a point to where you was like, I can see myself in that, because it took me a minute to see myself as a sergeant major. I'm talking to have the desire to be the sergeant major, because as an E7, I didn't see myself as a sergeant major. My first job as a first sergeant, I was too busy fighting to see myself as a sergeant major. But when I moved on, then I started, and there were people that said I may have had it, but I didn't see it. And so you finally get to that plateau, Full Bird, me, sergeant major. Now it's time to give that up and walk into civilian life and retire.
I was fine. I was good. You know, it was one of those things where it was like I just knew.
DUN, huh?
Yeah, I knew it was time. But the other thing too is that I had the advantage of watching my wife get promoted and friends get promoted that got promoted to 06, where it was like, they not leaving me, but you know, so some of that motivation where it was like, no, it's not going to be not me. It's not going to be me. Where it was wanting to get up there, but it was also, you know, you start watching other folks, and you start watching some of your bosses and things like that, and it's like, I want to do that. You know, I want to get up there so I can do that, or I want to get that job, and to get that job, that's where I need to be. So just doing those things and to get there, and then when I retired, I was good, because I could see all those folks, and I'm like, they're okay.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
I'll be okay.
Yep, I said I'll be fine. So,
and I've said it before that it was a cultural shock for me, because I was a first sergeant and a sergeant major for a combined 11 years. So, you know, it was a lot of dealing with that level of leadership as well as that recognition and the ability, the increasing ability to do things my way, because I started to speak as the Army, you know. So that it was a little issue for me, but it changed my circle again. Because in my circle before, it had become full of military people that I've served with and so forth. And now my circle is I still have those contacts, but my small circle now, they're all local. and the ones that were sort of like Jermaine, me and him were cool because we served in the same environment. He was the senior warrant, and I was the school sergeant major for transportation for the United States Army.
okay.
And then our wives clicked, right? So we were cool. We weren't like best of friends, but we were very cool, right? And so now I moved away, and the relationship, Nikki and we call her Buddy, Jen, they were still in contact, still best friends. And me and him, now we communicated through them. Well, now they move out here. Now we're talking to each other more, and we're becoming more and more friendly. So it's amazing how your circle there's no final circle until you die.
Well, just women are better at communicating. I mean, doing the longer distance and
because they can stay on the phone. I feel funny staying on the phone long, talking to anybody, let alone to a dude. You know what I'm saying? Even with Nikki, there's a point where I'm like,
all right. Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm calling you, talking to Lance. I'm like, 2-3 minutes. We got it. We good. You know, so, but that's funny, man.
So growth sounds good until it costs you something.
Yeah.
And the truth is, if it didn't cost you anything, you probably didn't grow from it.
Facts.
So thanks for listening to us as usual. let's keep the conversation going.
Bam.